Hi again guys, so today we're going to look at this Tricopter. It's going to be sort of a two-step. We're going to look at the Tricopter design that we're putting out and this brushless gimbal. Basically, just quickly, what we run this on is the RG Pilot stabilization with GPS. You can run KK2 board without the GPS, still works great, but this design that we're working at the moment on is for FPV and then for longer range FPV, which I'll talk about just now. So we like having the functionality of GPS and return to home in case there's a signal loss or you lose orientation as to where you are. At the moment for testing we're running smaller motors off a 4S setup. We're going to go to different motors with longer arms with much larger propellers, which will give us about a 20-minute flight time off a 5,000 milliamp battery, 4-cell. And we will look at also extending that flight time with different combinations on that. So that's pretty much it on the Tricopter. It really flies very well. We've done our own little small modification to the tail section to make it very smooth and sturdy. There is pretty much no play at all in the tail mechanism, so it's extremely efficient, and that's pretty much it on that side. These little foam things we've added because two reasons. One, it adds a very nice soft landing and absorbs the vibration or impact from that if you come down a bit hard, and we needed to raise it a bit because of the brushless gimbal. So if you look at the gimbal when it's down, then it pretty much has just enough clearance, probably about, I don't know, half an inch or so of clearance from the ground when the arms are out. So getting to the brushless gimbal, and I did a video about brushless gimbals and how when you buy them, even when they say that they're ready to fly, they actually aren't in most cases, and so we wanted to have a look at this one. This one you can get online in a lot of places, and they'll range between $100 to $140 depending when you look where you look. And this is a 2-axis gimbal. We again did a little modification on it to turn it around so we can mount this inside the frame and not on the bottom, which actually raises the gimbal a bit, which then we don't need as much ground clearance, of course. There was an extra tray here that you could have actually mounted it on upside down, but then the problem is if you want to tilt down to look down, you won't be able to, because this would be underneath the gimbal. So this setup works very nice. So the gimbal itself, it was, I think, 90% ready to go. I'm going to add a video at the end of this flying just in the garage, just doing some testing. So while I was just dialing in the gains on this Tricopter, which flies very nicely right now on this setup, obviously we'll have to play around once we put the bigger motors on, but the gains are working very nicely, and you'll see at the end the gimbal gives extremely smooth footage even when you move quite violently across. So I'm very impressed with this. So I said 90% ready. The reason for that, there's three things. Okay, one, well, there's a fourth little thing, so I'm going to start with that. The screws in here that actually hold this in, that I had to turn around and take the screws out, they're very bad quality, so it's very difficult to get them out, very easy to strip them. So I put 2 of my own screws in there. They're a horrible size, M2.5, and as I mentioned about another quad that we've got, also M2, they use a lot of M2.5. It really sucks. because it's not a common size, but I had some of those laying around, so I used those. The nice thing about this is it does come with the Alex Moss 2-axis controller. I don't like the Martinez board, very simply because every single one I've used, and I can tell you I've used a hell of a lot of them, they will work. They don't work as smooth as the Alex Moss. They can work smooth enough, but then after a while they just stop working. Okay, and that's happened to me like a lot of times. I actually lost count now how many times I've had a board just go wrong. And I can tell you it's got nothing to do with my setup, because I've got the exact same setups on these boards and not one problem with my Alex Moss boards. I've went through a few of them. I've not had any of the people I've built quads and that for have any issues with them, so that's definitely a big plus. I prefer that board. It's not that much more expensive. So back to the gimbal. The other thing is the strap it comes with, which you don't really have to use, but it's not really the best strap for the GoPro. It doesn't secure it as well as I would like it, but it's not too bad, especially when you do the next thing that I'm going to talk about. But before that, the other issue is that these slots where the strap goes through is only in one spot. So if you want to put the GoPro in a slightly different position, you're not going to be able to, because then the strap doesn't really work anymore. So maybe, especially since this is aluminium, you could have drilled these slots all the way through to at least give you that that option. As far as the fact that you cannot actually adjust the balance because you can't move these motors around, it's not a huge issue because it's mostly balanced with the Hero 3 and Hero 2. You just need to move the camera slightly out or slightly back, so that's not a huge issue. Now the last thing is because this is aluminium, the GoPro will slide around a lot if you just put it directly on there, which is why I put this foam on there. It comes with the adhesive on the back, so it's pretty easy, and it actually absorbs the vibration as well, which is great. So you not only have a vibration absorption, but also it prevents the GoPro from sliding around. Now as far as the vibration absorption, I can tell you, even with my setup as it is, I've tried to get the vibration out as much as possible. All my propellers are balanced, motors are balanced, but these balls that come with the vibration balls that come with this gimbal are not the soft ones. These are nice and hard, so they absorb the vibration very, very well, and they work nicely. And sorry, I said lastly, but I forgot there was one more thing. Well, the last thing that is actually an issue with this is the program, your GUI that you're going to use with it. Now the reason is that although it works pretty much out the box with the settings that it comes at, if you want to use the tilt function, it only goes up to 30 degrees, and that's not really that much if you want to get a bird's eye view at 90 degrees or so. So the one thing with that is you have to connect it to the GUI. Now I tried to do that, didn't want to work. I tried to upgrade the firmware, didn't want to work. I contacted the guy that the distributor for this, and basically said to me, no, this is how it is, you shouldn't have to mess with it, and so on. I said, no, but hold on, I want to change the angle. And then he told me the firmware that comes with it, and funny enough, it's not the latest firmware, and it's probably the only GUI that the GUI to the firmware coupling that I didn't actually try, okay, because each one has to be correct, otherwise it doesn't work. So I need to try out that GUI, and I need to, I think, update the firmware from that GUI and then get the new GUI. I'm not sure. I haven't had this problem before, but the latest GUI does not want to allow me to upgrade the software. So I'm going to wait and see what happens. I'm going to try it out. But apart from that, the gimbal works great. So yeah, that's pretty great. For the Tricopter, I don't believe you need a third axis, even though we're going to try it out. And I'll explain why. Because your mechanism works off a servo, which gives you very nice smooth transitions on that yaw, not like a quad, which will unbalance your quad to actually cause that yaw motion. So it's not going to be as smooth as a tricopter. So tricopter is very unique in that regard. So we'll see how that goes. But we definitely use 3-axis gimbals from now on all multi-rotors, except for this. So far so we'll see how it works, but I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. So it's just that extra yaw follow feature is just amazing on the quality and the smoothness of that. So that's pretty much it on this. I'll put the video up. You guys can let me know what you think, and this will be available soon. We put these things together with the radio or receiver ready for you guys, and it works out the box with the, like I said, with the RG Pilot or with the KK2 board. It just depends what you want to do with it. And again, with the brushless gimbal or without the brushless gimbal. The whole thing is high quality carbon fiber, so it's not expensive, but it's not cheap. What I mean by that, it's not a cheap quality, but it's not very expensive frame, so relatively speaking, for what you get. So yeah, that's pretty much it on this one. If you got any questions, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. Just on a last note, the reason I prefer tricopters is not just the yaw mechanism, but the fact that you're using 3 motors instead of 4, which already makes your machine more efficient and slightly cheaper overall, because you've got less motors and speed controllers. Yes, you need a servo, but that servo pretty much lasts forever. So and it still costs less than the motor speed controller combination. I'm going to put the video up now, and you can see how stable this really is. See you next time. Ciao. When the rain